it would always give you an impossible number. So like, for instance, law of cosines, my guess is you were getting undefined when you were always doing like a second cosine or a second sine, right?
Yeah.
When you're trying to do inverse, okay. With the formula, remember, there's this huge, massive fraction on the other side, right?
Yeah.
I'm just double checking with you really quickly, trying to problem solve. No, I don't, no, okay. When you're doing that, are you doing second, for instance, cosine of, and are you using the fraction feature? Oh, that's not at all what I wanted. I am so sorry. Give me 1 second. You guys know second over goes to the end. Shortcut. Were you using the nifty fraction feature?
No.
Okay. So if you weren't using the nifty fraction feature, let me show you what could have gone wrong, and let's see if that's what did go wrong. Like this one, for instance, you were supposed to find a number 10b, right? To find b, you had to plug in all of this like mumbo jumbo. I mean, it's not mumbo jumbo, but you had to plug in all of this stuff, right? If you were plugging that in right here, like 81 plus, you shouldn't have rounded it. You should have used from up above, but I don't have it, so I'm just going to go for it. And then you would have done like the minus, the 20.25. Okay. It very well may have been that you realized that when you were doing all of this work that you were supposed to use parentheses maybe for like the bottom. A lot of people remember that you're supposed to have parentheses for the bottom. But what it's really easy to forget, let me show you. Mine's going to be an error. And why is it going to be an error?
I have no idea.
I closed in the denominator, but do you see what I didn't close in?
But I wouldn't do like I would have just the top part, and then I would.
Oh, would you do it separately?
Yeah, I was doing it separately.
Oh, stink. Well, that should have been okay. So hold on, you would have done like. Did you get error for number 10? Or did that one work?
That one didn't work. I mean, the first one did, but the second one didn't work.
Okay, so like this one that I'm doing right now.
So
Did you get angle B?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see it. I think I wrote it down.
So you could have done the numerator, and then you could have done the denominator. So you would have done it like this, Alec, kind of?
Yeah.
I hear you, Jaden. Just give me 1 sec. And then you would have done second cosine. You were doing second cosine,
yeah,
right?
And I would have plugged the other one.
And then you would have done like this guy. Probably would have scrolled up and gotten them, but either way. Well, that's weird, bud. If you had done it that way, then you did proper order of operations because you did the whole numerator, whole denominator. You should have gotten it okay. You're going to get an error whenever this is over 1, and if you forgot to like either put in parentheses or did some sort of illegal PEMDAS, it very well could have messed you up a lot. But otherwise, you should have been okay. Why don't you, when we grade homework, if you can find one of those where your calculator gave error and you knew there was an answer, whether it's odd or even, try to point it out to me, okay?
Okay.
Because you were saying this one ended up working for you, the 23.13?
Yeah.
Bummer. Okay, keep an eye on it. Let's.
I got the 11.6. I didn't 11.3.
Oh, you didn't get this one.
Like for number 7.
Yeah.
I have the equation right now, the 8 squared plus 12 squared minus 6 squared, and it just didn't work.
And what angle were you trying to find?
Cosine of A.
Cosine of A. So you were using the same formula, and it was A squared, no, B squared plus C squared, so 8 squared plus 12 squared, minus 6 squared?
Yeah.
All over?
2
Okay.
times 6 times 12.
Okay. The way I would have done it would have been second cosine. I would have thrown it in the entire fraction. Now I'm doing that just because like sometimes there are problems that don't work, but I'm pretty sure this is one just from your reaction since it's an odd that it should have worked. So I'm going to do it this way first, where you have all your pieces and then you have your, is it negative or positive? 2BC.
I don't think there's any negatives.
Okay. So then see how mine's all set up by the formula, because I have my B squared plus C squared minus A squared all over 2BC. I have an answer. Doing it your way, you would have had your 8 squared plus 12 squared, just so you can check your work in case you wrote it down. That would have been the numerator, 172. The denominator would have been, as long as this is all checking out, my guess is you might have just plugged in the wrong side somewhere.
Maybe.
Because plugging in the wrong side would have made this fraction be illegal, and so that illegal fraction is probably what you're seeing when you're plugging it in your calculator. There we go. Yeah. So double check your calculator, Alec, and as long as it's doing the same thing I'm doing, I think you might just be accidentally like putting in an A when you should put it in a B, or maybe you divided 192 by 172, like you were going backwards for some reason.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as long as your calculator's working now, I think you're okay. Maybe just making little mistakes. Jaden, what was your
So
question?
For number 10,
Yeah.
I used the c-squared formula
Yeah.
that they did.
Yeah.
But then after that, I just used the law of sines because it said that in the book, like as an example.
No, it's totally fine if you do. Just if you're doing law of sines, don't use 11.06. Use that longer decimal.
Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I did.
Totally fine. Did it match up?
Yes, but okay, so for angle A,
Yeah.
I had gotten 51.85 instead of 50.
Oh, because they were using the rounded.
Okay.
As
So
long
would-
as you're using the expanded, that's exactly what I'm going to get to.
So would that still be right if it's
Yeah.
off by a couple? Okay, and then
Yeah.
for angle B, I got 23.15.
Yeah. It's probably okay, because if you notice, they're using that rounded one, which is
Okay.
kind of messy. You'd be using the longer one, which is what I asked you to do.
Okay.
So no, I think you're good.
Thank you.
Good double check though. Sorry guys, you have 34 and 36 up here. They're a little bit more involved. 34, they totally did law of cosines because you have all three sides. You can't do law of sines yet, but you could have. Oh look, yeah, they totally morphed it and did a law of sines later. And number 36 with two angles. Oh my goodness, law of sines all the way. Don't use law of cosines for that. So that was just kind of reminding you, hey, the more sides, law of cosines is probably the better. The more angles, law of sines is probably better. Do you guys have any more evens besides 36? Oh, we do have some more.
56 and 60.
So some of you might be facing some of the similar issues as Jaden in that they just kept on like rounding and rounding and rounding and rounding. Once again, remember, I'm preparing you for an AP test where they say don't round to the end. So as long as you're doing the same thing that Jaden was mentioning, like stealing the whole long decimal, you have the most precise answer, which is what I was asking for, and it might be a couple decimal places off of theirs.
So what they did, they like shortcutted it. They shortcutted basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They just kept on rounding, so they have more error, and yours is more precise.
Okay.
Which if this was something where we were doing sig figs, then theirs would be best, but we're not.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep it precise. 38 was an area one, yeah?
That was easy.
399.04.
Oh wait, never mind.
S is the semi-perimeter. He's that formula that we talked about, how you add up all the sides and divide by 2. So then 47 and 47 minus 33, 47 minus 36, 47 minus.
Misty, I didn't get to. I didn't get 30.
Did you get 47 for S?
No. Got. Isn't it?
Did you add them all up and divide by 2?
Yeah. I got 81.5. I don't know why.
60, 80.
33.
Ah, you forgot to divide by 2.
Oh, is that what that was?
It's just the numerator.
Wait, then where's the 0.5 come from?
Oh, I don't know. Because that's 60,
33 plus 30.
69, 80. Oh, no, that doesn't work. 60, 80, 89, 94.
94.
94 divided by 2.
Is that?
47.
I don't know what
I
happened.
don't know.
I
How'd
put
you
it into
get
my
80?
calculator, but I'm not sure.
Oh, you know what? I bet you didn't use the nifty fraction thing I keep showing, and you forgot to put
Oh yeah, I
parentheses.
didn't. Yeah, I didn't put parentheses.
There you go. You gotta close in that whole numerator if you're not doing the cool fraction.
Okay.
There you go. Number 56 was plugging in the information that you had and realizing you were missing both this side and this angle, which kind of made this funny equation thing. And they were saying that basically in letter A, you were just getting everything to one side, but you were still missing multiple pieces, which was tricky, but you're just rearranging the formula as is. Then you're solving for x, which was, the only way to solve for x is to do a quadratic formula. The only way to solve for x was to do a quadratic formula. It's the only way to figure out, hey, I have a quadratic, is to do negative b. And the weird thing with b is he was a 3 and a cosine. So x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared, the cosine theta joined with the b. If you guys didn't see that, it would have been impossible. Like, I don't know how to factor that. How am I supposed to get x by itself as a function of theta? Well, quadratic formula says, I'll take that cosine and I'll put them in. So then you were actually able to figure out a function of x by simplifying. You could have left it like this, but they made it nice and pretty. And then you could have plugged that into your function for y1 equals that x, which is that big old long nasty equation down here. And then you're able to use your max feature. And there are two different places that max occurs. So you could just use your max there or there. You can make it a little bit longer, but that max ends up being at 8.5. 8.5 inches. So you had to do some mathematical gymnastics on that one. Definitely do some mathematical gymnastics on that one. They just switched the order of the problems, guys. Kind of ignore that. Sorry, my file gets funny when I try to write on top of it and then it won't go back. So 66 hopefully was fairly straightforward just by your guys' experience, in that it's like, oh, more sides, law of cosines. More angles, law of sines. You technically have options on who? SAS. More sides, law of cosines. Maybe I'm wrong. Was there not an SSA in homework anywhere? That was weird?
I don't think so.
Oh. Maybe I was thinking 56, but it was just weird in general because you were missing two pieces.
Isn't SSA and SAS the same thing?
SRQ?
SSA is a certain order. I mean, you could do ASS, we just don't do it that way because then you
I
might
think we had an
be seeing.
SSA, but it was like you got A and B and then A and B and then angle C. So it's like you couldn't work with it. You had to do log cosines.
Oh. Because you couldn't pair up anything.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll keep an eye open, and if another SSA comes up, like it might come up later on in the chapter, it might come up in a word problem or something, maybe in section 6.3. I don't know exactly where it shows up. I thought it did somewhere. Or maybe I'll just kind of randomly show it to you guys when we're getting closer to a test review. Because with SSA, you technically do have options. Yeah, it's SAS, 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 SAS. But law of cosines, it is messy if you try to do SSA. Yeah, you're right. Oh, wait, this is one. Did I give you guys number 33?
No.
Oh, I didn't give you the SSA. But you could have chosen law of sines or law of cosines. Okay, let's not reinvent the wheel. Did you guys have, anything further in homework, odds or evens that you wanted to talk about or ask questions on?
Yes.
Yeah, Megan.
34.
34.
I did like the first part, but then finding the second angle, it wasn't working.
25.
The second angle wasn't working.
Yeah.
Trying to find him, sorry. So 34, you got
I did.
89?
Well, I did angle A.
Oh, okay, so you just switched it around.
Yeah.
So then angle A would have just made it to where, but you wouldn't be able to check your work with the answer key, huh? Okay, so then angle A would have been cosine of A, and so you would have done cosine inverse. And then you would have done b squared plus c squared minus a squared all over 2. Does that look right? Okay, and you said that one wasn't working, right?
No, that one was fine, but the second.
Okay, cool. So then that one you would have gotten 57.79-ish? Okay. Where'd you go looking after that? Did you go law of cosines or law of sines?
I think, I don't know, I just did it from the book set and then
Does it look like this one?
no, they like.
Because you could have also done it this way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then you would have done law of sines way, which would have given you, now I'm going to use the rounded just because I don't know all the decimals. You would have multiplied 13 over here, right? And then you would have needed to do sine inverse this time. Now be careful. Kind of going along the lines of how careful you need to be with your calculator. When you're plugging this guy in, if you don't use that nifty fraction feature, you need to put these guys in parentheses. Actually, that shouldn't have made a big deal though. The one way it might not have worked is if you accidentally closed a parenthesis somewhere in here and you accidentally closed off the whole sign inverse. I've had people do that before too, to where they're trying to, I don't want you to do that. Okay, to where you're trying to put something in, and then, I forget what the numbers are. 13 and 57.7. Seven, 9. So like 11 or something. Check out. Now, I'm not saying you did this, but if in this one there's no plus or minus to really mess up much, as far as like you could have put the whole numerator in parentheses and the denominator, but some people accidentally close the sign inverse. So check it. It's sign inverse of, but see how there's just like an immediate end. Then it wouldn't include any of that unless you had a double parenthesis. So I need this guy to wait until the very end to close. I don't know how many parentheses you put in or exactly how you put it in, but why is that an error? I still put it in weird. I have this and this and this and this. Oh, sign. No. I didn't put my sign. I was trying to remember and I forgot there was a sign right before that. You're right, the parenthesis mistake was earlier. Second insert. Sign.
Thank you, Sophia.
Delete. There we go. There you go. So that could have totally messed it up if you accidentally ended that parenthesis, or if, I don't know, maybe type something in wrong. But otherwise, let's double check. I think that's okay now. Yeah.
Oh, Missy.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand number 25. That was like the chart one.
Yeah, number 25.
Stuff is missing. Alec, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. On muy difícil.
This is from the parallelogram picture.
I think your homework is almost done.
Where's completing the tables? Like diagrams. 25?
Yeah.
Alright, we're trying to fill in stuff.
Oh, the picture in Calc chat was much more helpful.
Because they probably labeled stuff.
It was more like parallelogram. It looked like more like a ramp. Like this one, it looked like a box. That was kind of
It's hard to see like the slanty of it because it's like at a
I just don't
angle.
understand how you're supposed to see it.
Okay. We have theta being an angle of this triangle. And from parallelograms, there we go. So theta's in this triangle. We can call that the red one. And then we have phi being in phi? Faux fun? Is it phi? It's phi, because psi. I always forget. We have phi being in that triangle.
No, it's fine.
Phi, P-H-I.
Oh.
There's one thing from geometry which might have been kind of hard for you guys to realize. Now, if it's a rectangle, it's easy. It's 90 and 90. But with a parallelogram, is the same thing true?
No.
180.
We have to think back, to parallel lines. Parallel lines, I forget, was it 2 arrows or 1 arrow back in geometry? Parallel lines, same side angles of a transversal are supplementary. So even though...
So theta would be this, or so phi would be the same thing. Oh, never mind.
The other one.
Oh, okay.
90 plus 90 equals 180, but if you just have 45 being one, then you have to subtract from 180 to get the other one.
Oh, okay.
Now, the hard thing, Sophia, is that they were trying to give you a general parallelogram, because this guy with 45 degrees, shouldn't he be way more like, slanted? But they were keeping it general for whatever the angle could be, so that's the hard part.
I was confused. I was like, that looks more like 90 than
Yeah. But in other problems, you would have seen that. My guess is they had this they didn't even show you most of them. But anyway, they had it varying in different problems with probably sometimes theta being big and phi being small.
And
Sorry.
then how do we get C?
Yeah, so now you're like, well, now what do I do? Well, I know that this one is 135. I know that A is 5. B is 8, which means this is 8, which means this is 5. I don't know if that helps, but it's parallelogram. So those are congruent opposite sides. C and D, isn't C across from 5? And isn't D across from theta?
Should they be the same?
Couldn't we use an SAS for this triangle law of cosines? And couldn't we use an SAS for this triangle?
Wait, but how do we have, we only have one side, we only have 8.
5 and 8.
But we have 5 and 8.
But,
Both triangles have this, and both triangles need this.
oh, okay, we're looking like the big blue one.
Yeah, so we have the big blue one, but we also have the little red one. So the little red one can also use the 5 and can also use the 8. And then so there's the little red one
Okay.
getting this guy D, and then the blue one can use the 5 and the 8 and the 135.
Thank you so
Is that
much.
cool? Okay, anything else? Okay, so overall it was okay, but some like plugging into our calculators is weird. If you guys, just because there were multiple ones of you that are like, it wasn't working, take a quick, you guys all have your phones on you usually, right? Take a quick picture of it next time that happens, because then I can see what you actually put in, because we can't recreate, unless you can like scroll up and find it, sometimes kids can. But take a quick picture of it. If something weird happens on your calculator, you can show me and be like, why didn't this get me the right answer, especially on odds. But evens, it's hard because you think you have the right answer and then you might not. Let's get out of this. Let me not save changes because I wrote all over that thing. And let me have you guys.
That looks like physics.
Yeah, just start writing notes.
Vector! That's me.
Just start writing notes. The reason we talk an application of 6-1 and 6-2, an application of non-right triangles. I know we don't have a lot of time, and that's okay. We're just introducing. As soon as we talked about non-right triangles, we kind of just opened ourselves up to more realistic problems. And one application of right triangles, but also non-right triangles, is vectors.
That's me.
Which is a foundational concept in physics. Now, our school doesn't offer an entire course in like just basic fundamental physics. We do in chemistry, right? There's just a normal chem, not AP, well, no longer even honors. But we do have a chemistry course where it's not supposed to take the place of a college course. The chemistry course is just supposed to give you an introduction to this field, to this content, to these ideas. Kind of like algebra gives you an introduction, and geometry gives you an introduction, et cetera, et cetera. English gives you introductions. But we don't really have a physics course, even though lots of other schools do. We do have AP Physics. Mrs. Leon's been working really hard on that. But usually, physics is one of those things like chemistry that's required. At least in my high school, it was. I had to take a year of physics, a year of chemistry before college, which is helpful to getting like some basic ideas kind of down. Since we don't do that, and maybe not even since, but pre-calculus, remember, pre-everything future STEM, this is the main place in section 6.3, 6.4, 6.5 that we kind of introduce the beginnings of some physics. And then in calculus, we introduce a little bit more, having to do with motion and velocity, acceleration, and all that sort of stuff.
Do you take physics in middle school?
Oh, Miss V, I know what the blanks
Your
are.
physical science,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is like introducing the basic ideas, but doesn't like give you the
Why don't
same
they
high
have
school
a
coverage.
regular class like that?
Because they're trying to open you guys up for being able to take AP courses. Like, okay, give them bio, give them chem, and then let them choose. That's kind of the idea.
'Cause I would take physics if they.
Yeah, physics
if
would be
they-
helpful.
Like if I could have done like a regular class.
I don't know. You should ask Mrs. Leon though. It's an interesting question. There were Maggie, Corey at Berkeley. She's like, yeah, pretty much all my classmates have taken physics before, either AP or regular. Like, I didn't take either. But she took chem and then AP chem, so that's kind of why they allow you to be able to take a course and then a higher course. But
Like, do you think it's important to take physics?
depending on which direction you want to go.
school she's putting into it.
But I mean, if you don't take it in high school, you will take it in college, and to some extent, college physics might be easier than AP physics. So it's one of those, you could get an intro then. And some people don't need calc-based physics. You don't even need a lot of stuff in AP physics, but I don't know.
A line segment that is both direction and
What?
magnitude.
You already know how to fill in the blanks.
From Despicable
Alex. You're
Me.
amazing.
It's
Or you
from-
watch Despicable Me. Okay,
Yes.
so both magnitude,
Yeah.
magnitude of an earthquake, the how muchness, and direction, the angle. We have angles and we have sides, which is really weird. Which is really weird because sides of triangles, up until this point, haven't they just meant like how far, how long?
Yes.
Now a side of a triangle, as soon as you put a vector on it, it might just mean how long or how far, but it might also mean, ooh, snazzy. The magnitude, don't worry, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but the magnitude can be the how long, but can also be the how fast or the how much. We could label it with gravity, we could label it with velocity, we could label it with length. Oh, all of a sudden the side of a triangle can be labeled with a lot more than one thing. Bye, cool kids, I'll see you tomorrow. And we will dive into vectors.
Nothing to do tomorrow?
Nothing's due tomorrow. No.
We did do something, wait.
I don't think it's due until like Friday. Don't worry about pre-cal tonight. Catch up on all the other stuff. I heard you guys have a lot going. And I'll go post that homework so you have it.
因为看我妈的很麻烦的骗子年群，我跟你讲，我这下真的有可能。